members of the group. His name's Ozzy. He's one of 13 that we're taking care of here. Yep. And these guys, they are part of a very complex but very interesting family unit. Basically, you have a number of males and females living together, and they all are able to either work together, find food, even groom each other, keep each other safe. But they do also like to compete with each other for resources. So you'll have a few that are going to be a little bit more likely to, say, have mates or have some food that's going to be first available. Ozzy, for example, he tends to be one of the higher ranking guys. And that's Wilma. He tends to like hang around her. She's the very most popular of the females here. But these guys come from South America, so they are found in the continent just below this one here, and they live in jungles mainly around countries like Brazil. So these guys are very curious, very intuitive. They are very ingenious. They will use tools in order to, in fact, solve problems. Yes, Winter, you might do that. And they'll either have those just in their hands, say like trying to get some bugs out of rocks, or they'll even use their tails as something that can hold objects, or even be able to climb around. They'll actually use it as a fifth limb. So sometimes you'll see these guys, you'll see how that tail curls? Yeah. They can actually grab things just like our hands can. So some of them will actually be able to carry things around in that tail. Nicole, she's actually usually around the front. We have Nancy right back there and Nevin. But every once in a while you'll see them have like a biscuit or even a rock or a stick, just carrying that around with them.
That's awesome.
Or leaf, yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, actually, speaking of those leaves, something very interesting that our guy Ozzy over here knows how to do. As I mentioned, they're very intelligent animals, and they do understand concepts that once we thought was just reserved to humans, but not at all. Transactions, for example. He knows that if he finds trash in his environment, he can give that to us, and we'll give him something high value, like grapes or Brazil nuts or something that they really love.
That's cool.
But here's the kicker to it. Not only will he do that with trash, he'll also do it with leaves, especially with newer keepers. Because what ends up happening is if he's able to get that leaf to be traded for a grape, he's got hundreds of leaves. And now he knows he has all the money to get what he wants.
That's awesome.
And in fact, if she shows up here, her name is Lance. She was actually part of a research study. In fact, these guys all came to us from research facilities. And she actually was in a fairness study. So they actually were able to see if animals like capuchins understand concepts like fairness. And it turns out they seem to, at least to some degree. They actually did a training regimen. She was given the same reward as another one of her, or as a female right next to her. And, oh, yes, you are just waiting. You're like, give me something. But they do the same training regimen, get the same reward, but one day they changed it to where the same training regimen, one got a higher quality item than Lance. And so once she saw that she was getting essentially ripped off, she wouldn't accept the original item, which was a cucumber. So basically, grape, high value, that's what her friend was given for the same task, but she noticed that she got a lower quality item, so she kept throwing it away until they gave her the grape. Yep, they are very complicated, but they're very cool animals to get to know.
That is awesome.
Very smart.
The other thing about them is they are a species that a lot of people see them, or at least similar species, like the white-fronted capuchins in movies, and they look like they'd be like a really cool pet. Well, no. Some of the big reasons is they are very strong for their size. They also like to destroy. They also like to do something called urine washing. So if you see them sort of look like they're like walking around and it looks like their hands are sticky, there's a reason for it. Gives them better grip and also puts their scent everywhere.
Huh, that's pretty cool.
Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Matthew's the right guy to ask.
How often do you guys feed them?
So they actually get 2 main feedings, but we also do have some enrichment that will be sent out at different portions of the day. Usually we try to change up exactly when, just so that things are kept a little bit more randomized for them. But usually there's at least one in the morning and evening. So out on Habitat, we'll have a whole bunch of food for them, and looks like they've already eaten most of it. Hi, Winter. That's Winter, by the way. Being very flirty right now. But in the afternoon, we also have their bedrooms in here, which we have one group out here, but they actually split into two smaller groups. The reason is because there is, as I mentioned, a very complex system for their hierarchy. There is a higher tier and somewhat of a lower tier. So we have 4 of them that like to stay together, they feel a lot safer together, and they don't have to have some of like the ones like this big guy, Wiley, maybe outcompeting them for some of the food that they really definitely need. But on Habitat here, there's enough space, of course, for them to get a little bit further away. Wiley is, by the way, our largest guy in the group.
He's a big dude.
Still fairly on the young side, but he's another one who was born pretty high ranking into the group, so he usually enjoys a pretty nice spot. But every once in a while he still has to compete with the others, since he is just one of the 13, though he usually has pretty good family backing. Oh, hello, Winter, yes. So right now she's likely cycling, so she is very flirty, filled with feelings, lots of hormones. But a very normal part of every month they go through their cycling, and of course they usually tend to have some behavioral differences. Yes, Winter, hello.
How old do they, or how long do they live?
In the wild, you'd probably find one in their late 20s to be on the pretty older side, even into their early 30s. It's actually possible for them to live over 40 years old.
Oh, wow.
Ozzy over here is actually 33. His dad, Ike, lived to be about 42, I believe, when he finally passed away. In the wild, again, they would probably not live quite that long, because as you get a little bit slower, you probably might have more predators, diseases, more susceptible. Here, of course, we have vet staff all around, or all year, all around,
right.
And so they're able to get immediate medical care whenever they need.
That is awesome.
Do they have a problem getting around with that there too?
As it turns out, they still get around pretty well, because you probably noticed our boy Lucas up there.
Yeah.
So, yes, he's not going to be able to use that as a 5th limb. Turns out he is able to compensate. Again, he's not going to be able to have quite the dexterity as some of the others that are using that tail to, say, like, climb upside down, but he absolutely can do it. As it turns out, he's pretty much moving around the way that old world monkeys would, and even some South American primates. So it's actually just the ones in Central and South America that have been known to have truly prehensile tails. In Africa and Asia, not so much. Yep, he's actually been doing very, very well. He is on the lower end of the spectrum, not likely due to his tail, though, mostly just where he fits into the family.
Well, because there's so many in there.
Was he born that way, or did?
No, his there was an infection. I can't remember what the injury was for him, but an injury, an infection, and the choice was made, to amputate. Otherwise, necrosis in the caudal vertebra, very bad news.
Gotcha.
He can stand next to me, and remember how you were watching Wildcats? Matthew's like a real wildcat. He knows all capuchin creature powers.
Bubby.
Yeah, actually, one of the real fun things that I like to do is they'll take rocks and they'll smash open pine nuts, or palm nuts, I should say. Here, they'll use that for just about anything, but if we give them, say, like a Brazil nut, very, very hard, they can take rocks and they'll smash them, or they'll just find a nice high vantage point and they'll either chuck them or they'll find something to hammer it against.
That is really cool. I wonder if they use the fence a lot. No.
They use it a lot for climbing, but when it comes to destruction, they have a number of ways. The biggest one, especially if they have like a gourd, is they'll take the gourd, highest point, chuck the gourd down. Yep, so we usually find things smashed a lot, which is entirely understandable. Capuchin's problem-solving strategy is either solve the puzzle or break the puzzle. Both work for them just fine.
I was about to say, I think that's my spirit animal.
It's like totally natural behaviors. Like,
Hey, that
I
lug nut
studied
doesn't
abroad
come
in
off.
Costa Rica, and the capuchins there, when we walked under certain trees, they would spill the bromeliads on us.
Yep.
I hope it was bromeliad ones. And then shake the branches at us. And they were troops of like 20 or 30, and they were all just like, I would be like, I'm going to take this back. And they find me, and we'd still do it.
I know, right?
Oh, this is Lance, by the way. This is the one that was part of the study. Hi, girl. Yeah, telling them apart takes some work, because there are 13 of them. But they are, they're very, very, very big personalities. So that's one of the big ways to tell them apart, too.
I definitely understand that, especially when you're working with the same, or various of the same species. It it becomes a bit of a pain to try to remember everybody.
That's why we have a label maker.
Yeah, this is why I have a label maker.
Yep. Again, it takes some time, and like I said, this is just one of several different capuchin species. Actually, there's two main groupings now. White-fronted capuchins are a little bit more on the slender side. They're their gracile capuchins. These guys are the robust capuchins, so they're a little bit bigger and heavier. But again, you'll still find these guys mainly around Central and South America.
No, that'd be breaking things. You can't fly, Bubby.
He's trying to fly.
No.
I was about to say, the capuchins, that if they can reach any of those plants out there, they will. It's actually really something we always have to watch for, depending on what the plant is, because they will absolutely, if it's something new, something interesting, they have no problem just being able to reach out, grab it, break it, and then they can use it for whatever they want.
That is awesome. How often do they have babies?
So usually they'll have, things are going well, they might have offspring maybe once every couple years or so, but normally it'll be just one offspring born to a female at a time. But it's a normal year, they'll cycle every month, and for them, there really isn't a set breeding season, which makes a bit of sense since it is going to be an animal closer to the equator. Usually conditions are pretty similar, but depending on the abundance of food, that might determine if there's going to be, say, more offspring in the group, or or if they have more than one offspring at a time, which is very, very rare.
No one keeps pushing leaves out.
Like I said, especially if that's Ozzy doing it, then it makes sense. He views those leaves as trash, and again, if he can get a grape for those, he is in a great place.
I love it. I want to play with that too. Nah. Fine, that is small.
They're making their own fans.
Yep.
Wow, this is really cool.
Even though they're just afraid about being told.
This is Nevin, by the way, right here, who's been watching us. He's an interesting one. He'll usually be kind of what I call a satellite male, where he's still part of the group, but he kind of tends to do his own thing until he finds an opportunity. Oh, hi, Nevin. Oh, yep. By the way, you see what he's doing right there?
Yep.
That is another version of urine washing. So that gets his scent all over him, on his hands and feet. That gives him actually really good grip, and also essentially stamps his scent everywhere he goes.
That's cool.
Like I said, I've got a number of people. It's like, oh, I'd love to have one in my house. Like, no, that is your house.
So that like the holes that are kind of have like those little circles in them. Did they bend those, or is that where you guys reward?
These ones right here?
Yeah, like the little circle parts.
As a matter of fact, I can show you exactly what we can do with those. Remember how I said they can use tools?
Yeah.
Well, I have something spare.
Oh, cool.
Maybe get a little. We got that.
No, stay.
For you.
What we have
Watch
here.
them play with some sticks like you're playing with one?
We'll give them the tools first, and then we'll give them what they use it for here in just a second. Now, granted, they'll find ways to get sticks on their own, but this helps prevent them from destroying the rest of everything.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
He's like, wait, where's my stick?
In the wild, they would usually find like tree hollows or something under rocks, and they could use sticks to try and get insects, or even if, say, like there's some fruit that they wanted to either get, say, juices from or sap from flowers, they might do something like this.
Look at him.
So what we call these are dipping stations. Another type of enrichment for them, and like I said, out in the wild, they could use sticks to usually get, say, insects or grub or nectar. He'll take that stick and try to get as much of the stuff that's in there as possible. And then he licks it off.
That is awesome.
And,
Oh yeah, there he goes. Wow.
but also look at what Nevin's doing over there. They don't just use the stick, they'll shape the stick the way that they want. Take off extra branches that they think don't need to be there, or try to even bend it into a crook if they think they could, like, sweep something.
Oh, that is really cool. That is really interesting.
So right now we have some rice baby food. But it can be peanut butter, it can be cinnamon oatmeal. Not anything that could be mashed up and
put in there.
with a stick.
That is awesome. And that's definitely like really good enrichment for them. To have to like work for it and think of how they're gonna get their way into it. That is cool. I do something similar with the monitor lizards that I work with.
Oh, nice.
I kind of like I'll put like food inside cork bark or like in actual like in a box or something like that, and then watch them like have to figure out either they like some of the younger ones, they have to figure out like how to flip it or how to stick their hand in there to pull the food out. And so like because monitor species are very, very intelligent animals, and so that's how we try to get their mind thinking in captivity and kind of keep them enriched. And so seeing it in other species doing it this way is really, really cool.
No, it's awesome. There's actually, sometimes we discover a few things with this enrichment too, as in finding out behaviors we didn't quite expect. If you were to take, say, Tabasco sauce and smear that onto browse leaves and put it in there with them, they'll actually start to anoint themselves with it.
Oh.
And it turns out that capsaicin, as well as other chemicals similar to it, or even chemicals found in, say, onions, they'll rub that on themselves, and most of the research seems to indicate that it's likely for insect repellent.
Really?
Yep. So they'll just rub it all on themselves. Even when they sniff it, they do a lot of salivating, so definitely they get that reaction, but they'll just start anointing themselves with it. Ozzy will even wipe some on his tail and do what I call a car wash, where he just starts wiping his tail all over it.
That is awesome. That's one way to adapt to these mosquitoes and stuff.
Yeah. And especially in Central and South America, a lot of biting insects down there.
That is really cool.
Yes, hi, Whitey. Looks like Nevin did something to make Wilma unhappy.
Oh, I think he stole their stick. Because he broke his twice and then he couldn't get in anymore, so he stole their stick and ran.
Bad idea. Do not want to steal from Wilma. Like I said, Wilma is about the highest ranking female in there.
Yeah, he straight snatched the stick and ran. I got that on camera.
But you also might have noticed Oz was right there with him.
Yeah.
Or with her. So, yeah, that whole family backing, you can be the biggest one there, but if you don't have the same backing, the same family ranking, you are not going to be able to be as bold as you might otherwise be.
Right.
And Ozzy pays very close attention to Wilma.
That is really awesome. Well, thank you for talking with us. That was awesome. I actually learned a lot today from these, and this experience. That was really cool. I didn't know a lot about monkeys, so like that was really cool. And to see
Those
them,
are like really good ones to like open the door to like primate coolness.
right?
Yeah, 'cause there's a lot of information about them, and so they're like a frequent favorite. And then you kind of grow from there. You can learn so much.
Like I have a friend that has like a lemur and stuff, and he's grandfathered in from back in like 2000, 2010 area, and so he's had that for forever. And I mean, it's really cool seeing how they interact and how each one, you know, has their individual personality,
Oh, yeah.
each way of thinking, and I just think it's really cool and how intuitive they are.
Oh yeah.
That is just really awesome.
Oh, and there come plants.
He got his own stick. He's coming back.
He's keeping his eye as he's like, oh no.
Yeah, she and Winter are two females that when they're cycling, they're also very, very popular with the males, particularly Wiley and Ozzy. Yep.
Yeah. I always think of capuchins as like the gateway primate.
And listening to them communicate to each other is pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot of the time, the noise that they make is very different from what people assume from monkeys. You don't really get the sort of like ooh, ah kind of noise. You will get the sort of ooh, 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 sort of soft hooing.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is a lot of chirps and squeaks and clicks, and a lot of scrapings. Oh,
Look at him go.
the one that's doing the swing, that is Nadia. Why she does
Nope.
it, we honestly aren't sure, but it's a Nadia thing, and she seems to enjoy doing it.
That's awesome. I was actually about to ask. I was like, is there like a particular reason they do that, or?
In this case, we're not sure, because only one that we've ever seen do it is her. Again, it could be as simple as she just thinks it's fun.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with us and
No problem.
hang out. It was great meeting you, and hopefully, you know, we will be posting, you know, on the YouTube and stuff. And I hope our viewers actually learn a lot from this as well, because this is definitely a really cool experience and something that's really cool to see like up close and personal. That's awesome. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.